Let me tell you about my day so far. Coffee and pear.
Novels, how contemporary and fresh an approach it was to the superhero genre. I never thought about making a superhero film until someone sent me Jumper.
It started as a series of young adult novels written by Stephen Gould, and there's a book called Jumper and the sequel, which is called Reflex.
Jumper, the book, is about teleportation as a metaphor for escape, running away from your problems, and in fact, coming to the point where you have to realize that the thing you can't run away from is yourself.
Jumper is to the superhero genre what Bourne is to the action genre, and that it's just a sort of reinventing of it.
What we haven't really had yet is a movie about a superpower, a supernatural, a science fiction universe that is grounded and real and emotional and honest and human.
I was absolutely working through my own issues when writing that book. Davy's father is an active alcoholic, abusive alcoholic, and my father, thank goodness, is a recovered alcoholic, and there's definitely
Really personal issues.
Right. Teleport to the library.
I never really thought of a movie when I was writing Jumper. At that point, I was just trying to get a book published.
The script that I read from David Goyer was so fresh and obviously got me immediately interested in the movie. But when you take a book and turn it into a movie, I'm really someone who believes in throwing the whole thing out and reinventing it as a movie. And in this particular case, there was a villain in David Goyer's script. It dealt with terrorism, and it got a little bit conventional for my taste.
But when Doug came aboard, we decided to throttle it back a little bit and spread the story out, go slower in effect.
Well, we really used the original novel by Stephen Gould as a springboard for the movie. And then we really leapt off from there. Doug Liman, Lucas Foster, and I spent months and months and months in Doug's apartment in New York before I ever put any words to the page.
We felt it was important to develop a kind of a alternate history, if you will, of the world, where jumpers have existed for thousands of years and had an impact on human endeavors.
One of the biggest creations we constructed for the movie that wasn't really in the books was the idea of these hunters, the paladins, having hunted jumpers for thousands of years. And they've been around policing the universe to some extent, so that people with this kind of power couldn't abuse that power.
We've kind of built a Bible for the movie that goes way beyond what you will see on screen. I mean, we figured out backstories and research and mythology that goes forward and backward in time, you know, several thousand years.
That ultimately is the war that's in Jumper.
Doug and Lucas Foster and Simon Kinberg have a very collaborative process before we even get to filming anything. And so while they're going through all of their, backstory and setting up the characters, they're including us in that process and seeking our input as well. They want, an actor to feel comfortable in his character. And so in order to do that, you have to be creating that character together.
The ideas got so large that they really couldn't fit into, one or two movies. They needed to evolve over at least 3 movies. So we planned the story out over 3 movies, and then we sliced it up in such a way as to leave room for the other 2 movies.
There are, a lot of really neat things that Simon and I sort of plucked out and said, that could go in movie 2 and that could go in movie 3. And I'm not somebody who really thinks about sequels. I'm just trying to tell good stories. But I wanted to at least be cognizant that if a film becomes successful, the studio will want to churn out sequels. So we actually spent a fair amount of time plotting out 3 movies.
We quickly kind of went off-piste of the books, and started to really expand the story in amazing ways.
I was aware quite early on that they were diverging fairly heavily from my book, but I don't have a problem with that at all for several reasons. First of all, books are not movies. My book is a first-person, very interior novel, and that makes for a boring film if you literally shoot exactly that kind of thing. Secondly, hundreds of very creative people and, millions of dollars are being used to create a project that had the genesis in my original work. And that is just incredibly cool.
Stephen Gould is a very flexible and creative guy, and he's been working to generate a prequel book that'll come out just before the films come out.
Griffin actually isn't in the book. He doesn't appear in the book, so this is a totally brand new idea that they came up with for the film.
Griffin is both the sidekick and the mentor to David's character. We needed somebody who was a part of the jumper world who could impart some of that mythology to David.
Who are these people?
Paladins. Paladins kill jumpers. I kill paladins. Class dismissed.
He sort of operates like the Han Solo character with Luke Skywalker, and also the Obi-Wan Kenobi character, where he is both the sort of rogue, and he's also the teacher and the mentor.
So how long you been doing this for?
Doing what? Driving.
No, jumping.
Since I was 5.
5?
Yep.
The idea was pretty much I would take Griffin from when his parents are killed to sometime before the movie. Griffin has people coming after him trying to kill him from a very young age. The Paladins are trying to kill him, and they essentially hunt him and his family for 5 years before they actually do kill his parents. And so we have someone who's got a much rougher time of it than Davy. He's almost feral in the way he's had to grow up as a result. I was very interested in writing that story. That was interesting to me.
I want to know that history as well. I want to know that mythology and the history of what jumpers have done in the past to change the way we look at things today.
So I did get to see some of the world building that Doug Liman and the producers created using my novel as a springboard. I got to see little treatments of the history of the Paladins and history of jumpers.
There's so much to explore, conceptually with teleportation that, you can't just do it in one film.
And it continues. It's not a static thing. It's a living, breathing thing that we're continuously evolving. We're learning about the movie as we make it, and we're learning about how complex it is to be a jumper. And there are elements coming in later movies, if hopefully we get to later movies, that have a time element to them. I don't want to say too much about that, but it's very cool.
This is 100% Stephen Gould's story. It's just reinvented as a movie.
And there's the famous quote, and I think the author was Kane, the guy who wrote The Postman Always Rings Twice, who said, when asked, how do you feel about the way Hollywood has ruined your books? And he said something to the effect of, my books are right there on the shelf. There's nothing. They're exactly the same as they've always been. Hollywood hasn't done a single thing to them except, and he didn't say this, but this is where I come in, tens of thousands, if not more, people will be reading those books for the first time because of this movie, and that is really cool.